Hello, good afternoon, and welcome you all to this hangout for our community, startup and entrepreneurship community. This is our fifth menstrual hangout. We are very proud to have with us as a special guest the Ministry of Economy and the Sea. And we are being streamed, so besides the people who are here present, and it's good to have you here, we have also online assistance with people seeing us from stream channel. This month, the theme that we chose is aligned with the UN Oceans Conference that is happening here in Lisbon. And inspired by that, we wanted to discuss a sea of opportunities because there is really a sea of opportunities to our startups and to our entrepreneurs. Portugal, with more than 900 kilometers of coast, has not only the resources, the talent, and the means, but also the responsibility of making something big and bigger around this. This is a huge opportunity for us, Portuguese entrepreneurs and startups, for the Portuguese economy, and it's going to pass after the public assistance and after the public help. It will pass surely for to private initiative, to private entrepreneurs, to private VCs, and to make this a good business in order to become sustainable and in order to maintain the growth and the sustainability that we really want to happen in this sector. This week, our Prime Minister launched a challenge to more than double the number of startups that we have in Portugal dedicated to this area. And in our first conversation, Mr. Minister, you told me, I want you to engage the startup world and the startup community to get together with the main players in the ocean and in the blue economy and to bring new ideas, innovation, and new dynamics to this area. Inspired by this, we have been working in the last month together with UN Global Compact and with Invisible. And I have some good news to present you, but who is going to speak about that is Mr. Minister, so I welcome you on stage and thank you very much for coming and to make available your time for this. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everybody. It is a big pleasure to receive you here. You are welcome. Portugal is a very friendly country. We started 5 centuries ago traveling across the world, and we are very glad that now the world is traveling to Portugal and discuss a big issue, the status of the oceans. I think there is a huge concern about the oceans. Our oceans are lacking biodiversity. The ecosystems have been affected. We have 1 million species that are under threat in the oceans, and we need to reverse this situation. And most of the times when we run the international conferences, the day after is the return to the business as usual. And this cannot happen this time. And every country has to develop a plan of action regarding the need to reverse the situation in the oceans, to fight against the climatic threat and to look to the future. And in my view, the oceans can provide the reverse of current economic model that we have. We have an economic model that is based on the huge transformation of resources into garbage in a speed without parallel in history. We are a civilization that bid for a linear economy, very extractive. We don't care about the resources, just use them, fret them away, and come to the next wave. This has to stop, and this is why the oceans linked to the circular economy are crucial for the future. Why? Because our civilization is based on materials that are very pollutants. If we look around, we have the plastics, we have the cement, even the textiles. The fashion industry, for instance, is one of the most pollutant that we have in the world together with the fossil fuels industry. So we need to change completely our energy paradigm and simultaneously change completely our economic model. And now bidding for the blue economy, using the biological products to replace plastics. Is possible to develop biopolymers. Is possible to develop biopesticides and replace the fertilizers that are very damaging to the soil. It is possible, and we are here among the community of creative people, together with the investors, and we need that. I defend and I explain before to my students every time. One idea can change the world. A simple idea can change the world. This happened with the electricity. This happened with the fire millennia ago. And our civilization, our species is very creative. But our major mistake was that at a certain point we divorced it from Mother Nature. If we look to Mother Nature, what happens? The nature operates with the free energy of the sun. It interacts geochemically with the whole Earth system. And on top of that is able to create ecosystems that are productive, efficient, and regenerative. Attention, regenerative. In Mother Nature, that is not the notion, the concept of garbage. The garbage of some is the humus, the food stock of the others. And this works in a circular way. So my challenge tonight for you, and we have here a community of entrepreneurs, of people that has very creative minds, with people from the finance side. Portugal is becoming a sort of a startup nation. Our startup Portugal, led by António, is doing a fantastic work. We have today in this small country 2,200 startups. We have 169 incubators across the country, covering all the regions. And on top of that, if you look to South Europe, 7 out of the 10 unicorns are Portuguese companies. One of them, just to give you an example, that was constructed by and imagined by a very entrepreneurial man, is based in Coimbra. 30% of the world financial transactions go through the platform of this company. The headquarters are in Coimbra. This means that with simple ideas and ideas we can change the world and look to the future. And for you, my challenge tonight is why not to have in some time in the future a dress based on algae. And I think we can do that, because the textile industry, the circularity of the materials is very poor, is 1%. And we can build new materials exactly with the biological products of the ocean. And the same thing with the biofuels. We can build biofuels using the algae or other material. If you look to Portugal, our natural capital in the vast waters of the country is very, very rich. We have bacteria, cyanobacteria, we have algae, macroalgae, we have sponges, we have fungi, and these materials are crucial. And my idea, looking to the future, is that we can just extract a sample of the algae system, reproduce this system, and through that create new chains of production. And I think this is doable. And we can have a company, and in fact I heard already some ideas from some Portuguese companies in the north of the country. You know that one of the most difficult issues with our oceans today is plastics. And the fishing nets of plastics are one of the big causes of concern. And there is a company in the north of the country, they are trying to develop a fishing net based on biological material from the ocean. This can be a complete revolution, because it is sustainable, it can be regenerated, it can be reprocessed, and we need this type of approaches. And on top of that, if we look to the different ecosystems that we have in the country, in Azores, we have a fantastic ecosystem, thousands of meters below in the ocean, and it is linked to the dorsal fracture that crosses the Atlantic. And what happened? This fracture links the lithosphere, where we are sitting now, with the asthenosphere, is the layer just beneath the lithosphere. And so there is a communication. In the asthenosphere, all material is in evolution. And through volcanism, it comes to the floor of the ocean. And when they deposit it, they created a lot around them, ecosystems with variety of life that the people was not thinking that could exist in our planet. All the life that we have in our planet was thought before to be linked to the photosynthesis, to the energy of the sun. And these microorganisms in this fantastic planet we are living with, they make a sort of chemiosynthesis. They make the synthesis of the energy they need from the microbacteria for the other organisms. And this is very important because for our biologists, they are crazy of joy. This is a new world. And we just know 5% of the ocean is optimistic, in my view, an optimistic estimate. And we need to know much more the ocean, especially below the 2,000 meters. It's a totally different ocean that we have there. We have to understand the circulation, the waves, and the circulation in the ocean, the deposition of the sediments, the geodynamic behavior, how the ecosystems are affected, and everything else. And if we look to the one of the most fantastic layers that we have in the ocean that goes from 200 meters to 1,000 meters, is called the mesopelagic layer of the ocean. And the total amount of living organisms there is 10 times more than everything that was estimated before. And there are huge reports from the Second World War, the crews of the submarine. They were saying when the sunset arrives, what happens is like the bottom of the ocean comes up. And they were reporting consistently. And what happened? This is amazing, because Mother Nature is really amazing, complex and fascinating. Every day when the sunset arrives, billions and billions of these living organisms come to the surface to eat what is called the white snow, the phytoplankton, their food, and they go back to the deep sea. And this circulation is crucial for the decarbonization of the planet. So I think in the future we will have a startup, a company investigating, researching that, and combining all this investigation with what is happening with the plants. You know that the plants, they absorb the CO2 and they transform the CO2 in organic polymers, in the biological polymers. They are called submarine. For instance, cork, and Portugal is one of the biggest exporters of cork in the world. Cork is a sort of submarine. So we have in Mother Nature everything that we need to build a sustainable planet, a sustainable future. And this is why I am very glad to announce that our startup, Portugal, led by António, signed the memorandum of understanding with the United Nations Global Compact, with a platform of investors that are quite needed in order to combine the good ideas, solid projects with the financing. And they are working as well with Invisible. Mark Kaplan is here, so welcome. I think Invisible is working also with Startup Portugal in order to follow all this process, bring the investors, make the marriage between investors and good projects and good ideas, and on top of that, make the certification process. Because as we know, the finance world needs as well standards, needs metrics, needs stability. But I think, just to conclude, that you are welcome in Portugal. Portugal has a lot of advantage for an investor. It's a very peaceful country. We are one of the safest countries in the world. We are a very stable country. Very stability at political terms, stability at the macro policies. We have a vision to develop all these chains of production, starting with our ocean, with our blue economy, and link always this with sustainability. We start that in several sectors of our industries to link every industry in the country to a ESG factor for the environment, for sustainability, for governance. And we need to do that also for our company involved in the blue economy. So I think with your help, you are welcome working with Startup Portugal. I think we can double, as our Prime Minister said, and set this target, we can double the startups that are involved in the ocean, in the blue economy, and we can look to the future with hope. And you need hope is the grammar of life. The human being is not able to live without hope, because if we live without hope, the devils take care of us, and this cannot happen. So I just stress this final word of hope, and with this new generation, new ideas, new leadership, we will be able to build the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so now for our warm-up pitch, I want to call Mark Kaplan. He's the founder of Invisible, a technology-focused sustainable sourcing company and creator of Wallchain. Sorry.
It's okay.
He will tell his story about how a blue economy startup grew from a project into a corporate initiative, and today a sustainable business. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Patricia. Oh, yep, no problem. And thank you all for having me. Thank you, Mr. Minister. Thank you, António. Your country is unbelievable. I can't believe I have to go home. I don't want to leave. Yeah, thank you. So your invitation might be taken up. So what I thought I would do when I was invited to give this presentation was give a little bit of my story. It's been a long and winding road to get to this point. I got actually my background, I'll just give you a little bit of context. Given that it's Startup Portugal and I've really been kind of a serial kind of startup guy, either as an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur inside of large corporations, I've been fortunate enough to get both perspectives on how to accelerate ideas and make them real. So when we had the opportunity to really reimagine the Ocean Accelerator Network for the United Nations Ocean Stewardship Council, and to do so with Startup Portugal, which, as I learned about it, really embodies how a government can support a movement of entrepreneurship in a country. And I've never experienced that before. So I'm personally really excited to get to know you. So what I thought I would do is go through a little bit of my personal story, because something that I always, it's kind of a red flag whenever I hear someone tell me that, oh, it's business, it's not personal, because I can't think of anything more personal than your livelihood and how it impacts yourself, your family, and all aspects of life. So I'm just going to go through and give you my personal story. If hopefully I don't bore everybody with that. So my background, I really started working in mobile communications. I take one step back. I studied advertising and I started working in mobile marketing. Back in the day, there were no iPhones. The smartphone was Palm Pilot and BlackBerry, so I'm kind of dating myself there a little bit. And I always worked outside of the United States, even though I'm American, as you can probably tell by my accent. Most of my experience, I worked in 38 countries, mostly in the global south. And I was introduced to the US Department of State back in 2014 and the Global Partnerships Office there. And I was presented the opportunity to put together the MFISH initiative. I thought to myself, having, like, my most recent experience was building mobile apps for a large sports network. And I thought to myself, like, okay, well, how does that have anything to do with small-scale fisheries? But it was really about how to communicate to people in hard-to-reach places, generally speaking. And so I thought to myself, what a better challenge, because I was starting to struggle with the personal connection to the ethics of the companies that I was working with. And so I took the challenge and created a startup called Tone in partnership with the GSM Association, which is the Association of the World's Telecoms. Actually, it is one of the most impressive organizations that I've come across. It's the only industry organization that has committed to the global goals for sustainable development as an entire industry, with the US State Department and the government of Indonesia to teach small-scale fishers how to use mobile technology to improve their productivity and their lives. And so it took place in Indonesia, obviously, on an island called Lombok was our first site. And I was fortunate enough to go out and start to get to know the fishers. And we started to develop our first application. Obviously, this is much further along, so we started working in Android apps. And we co-developed an Android app with a community of fishers in Ampenan, Indonesia. and really getting to know what were their trials and tribulations of their day-to-day life, and how could we harness technology. And thankfully, with the support of my government before 2016, we were able to leverage satellite data to create, and we were talking about phytoplankton, so we created a Google map to phytoplankton. And so the fishers were able to leverage that because it works offline. So they could load the app on shore and go navigate out to their catch and navigate back. Patricia, could you please roll the first video? This will help bring it to life a little bit. Yeah? Okay.
In July 2014, the U.S. State Department's Global Partnership Office formed a relationship with Tone, a mobile communications company to leverage technology to improve the lives of people globally. A fishing village in Ampenan, Lombok in Indonesia was earmarked for the first pilot. Indonesia has the world's second largest coastline and over 17,000 islands, with some of the most remote villages in the world. The majority of Indonesian fishermen have no access to mobile broadband. Introducing mFish. mFish is a program that was designed by Tone to provide fishermen with affordable access to mobile broadband and vital applications. To begin, Tone partnered with local mobile carrier XL to create a special data plan that is affordable and sustainable for the fishermen. Then Tone developed an application combining communication and content, consisting of weather, navigation, messaging, market prices, and more. In February 2015, Tone and XL launched mFish. 50 fishermen received activation kits consisting of an entry-level smartphone with the Tone application, a solar charger, a waterproof pouch, and 6 months of free data. By swapping their old phones for smartphones, the digital divide was instantly crossed. When mFish launched, fishermen started messaging each other, recording locations, reporting ocean conditions, and most importantly, sharing their catch data with the local NGO. The app's GPS and maps function also helped them to navigate safely and increase their productivity. Through constant feedback, more features were added to the app. The catch log feature, for instance, recorded structured and digital catch data live. This helped mFish's partners to track fish populations and monitor poaching. Based upon the success of mFish, the fishermen were invited to meet the president of Indonesia. The mFish program will now be scaled to 23,000 fishermen with support from the Indonesian government and XL. Tone has also received sponsorship to reapply its model for mFish to farming and women's entrepreneurship programs. The best part is, the success of mFish was decided by the fishermen. They now pay less to be more connected to their community and the environment.
So, one of the lessons that I learned from that...
In July 2014, the U.S. State
is to play it again. No, one of the lessons I learned from that was the other definition of sustainability. Now, economic sustainability is as important as social, environmental, and governance. So we were contracted by the US government. We started in 2014. We ran into 2016. We all know what happened there. So I was in Indonesia when that transfer of power took place, and overnight, the business was vaporized. So despite the fact that we had achieved what at that time was unachieved, which was sustained digital inclusion for small-scale producers, because of the fact that the application had, the results of it were, we reduced the catch times by 80%. So if you were to, just imagine yourselves, if you were to reduce your commute every day by 80% of the time, how much money would you save in gas? Just imagine that for small-scale fishers. And then the fact that they were able to navigate to phytoplankton, they didn't come back empty with an empty catch. The other very tangible, during that time, it was, and this is anecdotal because we don't have written proof of this, but anecdotally we were told that it was the first year that none of the fishers were lost at sea. So just imagine those implications. Actually talking about it gets me a little emotional. But then overnight it evaporated. And I think to myself, like, how brutal that was for those fishers, because it was completely out of our control. Fortunately, during that time, I was invited to become part of the digital advisory board for Unilever. Thankfully, when 2016 took place, I was invited to become their first global vice president of sustainable solutions. So we took that concept pivoted, which is very important for entrepreneurs and startups to be able to react to the environments that are out of their control. And at the same time, I was also going through a lot of personal transitions. So my father was very sick. I was living in London. I had to figure out what I was going to do. Anyhow, so we pivoted. We developed my first project at Unilever was M-Farmer. So just imagine at the size of Unilever, one of the biggest, I mean, if not the biggest consumer goods company in the world. In my first 3 months, we were able to establish a new set of partnerships, which is why I wear the SDG 17 pin, a new set of partnerships. Instead of State Department, Excel, and the government of Indonesia, we still did it with the government of Indonesia, but we did it with Unilever, Facebook, and Indosat Ooredoo. And we applied those same practices, and we launched M-Farmer. Can you please play that video? So this will show you how that then came to life. And we did it in coconut sugar and palm oil. And this was just downloaded, but that's not the company. There we go. That's the accurate bit.
The M-Farmer initiative aims to remove the technological and economic barriers of access to the internet and drive sectoral change using information exchange, transparency, and social networks.
Selama ini mereka lebih banyak memakai telepon itu hanya untuk menelpon dan SMS saja. Telepon yang mereka pakai, kawan-kawan petani kita ini pakai telepon yang biasa-biasa saja.
In my experience
as a trainer, the farmers are keen to improve their lives and they understand that technology is a key enabler. M-Farmer leverages Free Basics by Facebook on the Indosat Ooredoo network to provide farmers free mobile internet access to the content and applications.
Mereka itu banyak kehidupan di bawah. Kalau pendapatannya mereka ini sebenarnya di tingkat petani ini dia hanya gali lubang tutup lubang namanya. Nah, terus kepemilikan lahan juga itu sangat terbatas. Persoalannya adalah karena satu adalah kepemilikan lahan yang sangat kecil. Nah, terus yang kedua itu adalah soal pendidikan yang terbatas.
Because there is no price transparency from the factory to the farmers have a limited understanding of market prices. The farmers in this village are paid in cash.
technology
will give the farmers access to price transparency, enabling them to track market prices and negotiate better prices for crops. This would include access to market information, training and education to improve their productivity and yields, mobile money to receive and make direct payments to enable farmers to be part of the formal financial system.
Harapan kita yang besar sekali sebenarnya ke depan, kita berharap petani itu dia mempunyai pabrik sendiri dia. Mereka mempunyai kebun secara kolektif.
The M-Farmer initiative is a multi-stakeholder partnership between Unilever and Grow Asia and has been endorsed by the government of Indonesia's Office of the Vice President in partnership with the National Team for the Acceleration of Poverty Reduction.
So the learning from the Unilever project was the necessity of having a market pull to drive the technology adoption. One of the biggest problems that I've always found for startups is getting stuck in perpetual pilot cycles. They never go anywhere. So what we took from that experience was we need, and now I'm going to fast forward a little bit so I don't keep talking for too long. So we took that experience, and when I moved back to the United States from London for the family reasons I was talking about, we decided to set up a seafood company that would implement the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan approach to seafood, because they're outside of canned tuna, there are really no brands. And then we built that seafood company to deliver a traceability system that would connect those producers, who I thankfully got to know, directly to the markets that we would then be distributing to. And so we now, that's my current business. Invisible is a sustainable sourcing company. Whole Chain is a traceability system that we initially built for our own seafood product lines, and now that's being reapplied to other commodities. I'll bring this to life for you in my last video. Patricia, can you play the last video? And now you'll see the two kind of come together in this next one. Sorry. This is the private label that we distribute for.
The journey of our seafood is not simple. There's an endless list of factors that impact quality and sustainability in a supply chain. It's no longer enough to use buzzwords like sustainable, responsible, and fresh. Today's consumers expect substance to back up these claims. At Full Circle Market, we believe the journey of our food matters. That's why we're using Whole Chain, a traceability system that links suppliers, processors, food brands, and grocers to track seafood from the source to the store. With Whole Chain, users rapidly capture important data using almost any device. Data accumulates as products change hands along the supply chain. A digital record follows the product all the way to the store, and each transaction is immutably recorded on a blockchain. As a result, supply chains can use valuable data to reduce waste and improve quality. Food buyers can verify product claims. Procurement teams can use mapping and other tools for planning and analysis. And brands and retailers can communicate product stories to their consumers with scannable experiences at the point of sale. Using Whole Chain, Full Circle Market will earn trust by adding substance to its claims. Full Circle Market, in season year-round.
So that brings the two to life. And my last words, I'll just give you the results. Everyone says sustainability and traceability are more expensive. It's not true. It's just the reason that they want to inflate the cost to make more money. So in our first year, in 2019, when we just sourced, we reduced the cost of goods by 5% on gross on the size of a national US grocery chain. Then in our second year, people tell you that consumers don't care about sustainability. That's the other myth. Sales increased by 40% when we had the traceable product line versus the regular product line. And then in the next year, now we're into 2022, despite inflation, we further reduced cost we haven't totaled this in the percentages yet because we're still in the middle of it, but thus far we've saved the grocery chains about $200,000 US on a $12 million gross, but during inflation. So you can increase sustainability, enable traceability, and reduce cost while increasing sales. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an entrepreneurial journey, and I will wrap it up with that. Thank you very much. Thanks, Antonio.
Thank you so much, Mark. What an inspiring story. So now to the next moment of our hangout, I want to call Carlo Fedeli, founder and CEO of FlexSea, a startup that helps reduce plastic pollution and global dependency on petroleum-based materials by leveraging one of the most powerful marine resources, the seaweed. Dain, CEO of Today. She was on the WHO innovation team through the pandemic and was on the founding team that created the United Nations Technology Innovation Labs. You can come upstairs. Stephan de Moraes from Indico Blue Fund, a 50 million euro fund dedicated to the blue economy, and Rita Souza from Faber Blue, an early stage specialty VC firm in Southern Europe that invests in teams transforming the world with technology. This conversation will be moderated by Miguel Marques from Blue Info that aims to make relevant contributions to the various pieces missing in the complex blue puzzle of sustainable development of our oceans. So give an applause for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patricia, and thank you, António, for the invitation to be here, and congratulations for the site and for everything you have been doing to the startups in Portugal. And I will start by a startup with Carlo and ask him, Carlo, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And is always a challenge to be a startup. So can you tell us a little bit what was the opportunity that you see and also what are the challenges that you are facing?
Yes, of course. So firstly, thank you very much for having me here. Lisbon is beautiful. We've had the chance to be introduced to the Portuguese startup economy in last November as part of the Blue Bio Value Accelerator program, and it's great to be back here for this event and for the whole week of the UN Ocean Conference. So as you said, being in a startup, definitely it's not easy. It's tough. It is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week job, and even when you try to rest, your brain never switches off. And I'm sure many of us here can understand this. The opportunities. What we're trying to do is to obviously try and replace single-use flexible plastic packaging in our specific with a biomaterial which is derived from sustainable seaweed, sustainably cultivated seaweed that can truly biodegrade in nature. It is home compostable in a matter of weeks, and it's in fact so natural you can even eat it and animals can safely digest it. So the challenge, of course, well, you have a first tech challenge of actually having to go through the development, and this leads to the challenge which comes before that, which is, as with everything that needs to be developed from scratch, you need to find a way to fund it. And I think a big issue for startuppers is to find the funding. We are in seaweed, so we like to say that we are in the world of blue tech. And 20 years ago, what was blue tech? No one was really talking about it. Today is gaining a lot of momentum, and you see there's countries like Portugal who realize the potential of blue tech for their own ecosystem. The coast, there's a lot of it. Ocean, maritime area is even bigger. It's incredible the proportion of land to ocean that Portugal has. And finding funding for a company like ours, funding is never easy. A company like ours developing hardware in the specific, we're coming from a world of startups where people were used to a lot of fintech, for example, in the past, or software in general, where you would have a big turnover of the capital invested in a matter of years with maybe a 10, 20 times return. In hardware, it will take longer, but it's something that is needed. Ultimately, there's no software if it cannot run on some form of hardware, so there will always be the need for hardware. And I think that right now, what's good is that there's more and more funds and private investors and institutional investors who are understanding the importance of investing into more hardware solutions. Metaverse is real, it's becoming real, but we do live in a hardware world. We must not forget that. And it's good that this thing is picking up, and I'm glad that we're managing to do it a little bit at a time, but we're getting there for sure.
Thank you so much, Carlo. And while I'll still have you here because of the wind, I will ask Stephan and Rita two things. Why is it important to have venture capital on the blue as a specific thing? Maybe Rita, to you. And if you could share a little bit about your Faber Blue.
Yes, Miguel. Well, thank you for the question and for the opportunity to be here and to explain what we are and what we do at Faber. So Faber is a Lisbon-based VC firm that was launched back in 2013. Traditionally, it has been investing in another sector, AI and data science, and then back in 2017. We started developing our thematic expertise into the blue economy space by collaborating with two of the most renowned foundations in oceans protection, based in Portugal, with an international footprint, and helping them in the support of structuring Blue Bio Value Accelerator program that Carlo just mentioned. And we started engaging there with them, setting up the program and acting as a mentor and a coach to the companies that were part of the program. And it was the best way to understand really the main challenges that the companies, these young companies, very early in their very early stages, and working specifically in the blue bioeconomy space, it was the best way to understand in real terms and very concrete terms the main challenges that these companies were facing. So Carlo mentioned, so funding is definitely a main challenge. We all know the enormous funding gap that exists today to fund these very young companies. This exists also because, in general, VC funds that do not have the specialist approach and the specialized knowledge of the blue economy sector think is very difficult to invest in companies like this, developing deep tech, because they don't understand the deep tech, they don't understand the market dynamics, they don't understand the regulatory constraints that these companies face, they don't understand how the whole ecosystem moves around these companies. So it's very, very difficult for these non-specialized VC firms to invest in this space. So that's why we launched a second pillar of investment within Faber. So we launched the fund that is specialized in deep tech for an early stage companies to invest in companies that are developing these technologies to create high positive impact on ocean sustainability, climate action, and decarbonization of the global economy. So this is the fund that I'm totally dedicated to, and that that together within the team we actively work every day to support these companies overcoming the challenges. Yes.
For me as a pilgrim that for the past 20 years I've been trying to convince the financial system that the blue is where you should be, it's a privilege to have you, Rita and Stephan, because you are very successful in what you do. And I will ask to Stephan, is it so different to be here in the blue economy space, you that have a strong experience on this industry, not in the blue, but now also in the blue?
Well, actually, in the past decade, we did several investments in the blue economy. Before I launched Indico in early 2019, I was heading up Caixa, and there we invested in companies like Biomimetics, FiberSail, and a few others in the biotech sector and not in the software sector related to the ocean. Plus, you know, I usually say as a joke that all the team is connected to the ocean. We're surfers, swimmers, sailors, divers in the team. Everybody very connected. So we take the matter, you know, into our own hands and into the water as often as we can. And so we've been very fortunate to have backed, you know, a lot of success stories over the last decade, from Farfetch to many other unicorns. We currently have in our fund three unicorns. And actually the first investment of the flagship fund of Indico was BitClick, which is a solution which is very similar to Michael Kaplan's whole chain, you know, blockchain, full traceability from the boat to the end consumer. And so for us it was actually very natural. And so we realized that we also, you know, we were signatories of PRI, Principles for Responsible Investing, since the beginning of Indico, and the blue economy is actually a very big opportunity. I think we're very complementary to what Faber has been doing, because we don't do only sort of the early stage sort of deep tech. Our strategy is slightly different in a sense that in addition to that we also invest in SMEs, because in addition to solving big climate action problems with deep tech, we also believe that SMEs and small, medium-sized companies that are already in the market, if nudged correctly, can become more sustainable and have a positive climate action sort of footprint in the ocean. So we invest between 100,000 euros and 5 million per company, as long as they are connected to the ocean, as long as we can add value. We are normally lead investors in these situations, and we work very close to the companies and try to make them not only grow much faster and go from local to global, which is what we've been doing for the last decade, but also to have an impact in terms of the ocean sustainability, and we actually measure that impact as well, not only financial.
Thank you so much, Stephan. Dianne, the word connect means a lot to you. It's your life. So can you tell us a little bit more about you and how important it is to connect people to change, reconnect to the nature and the ocean and think differently to innovate? Please, Dianne, and also tell us a little bit about today.
Absolutely. So I really resonated with what you said because I do believe that our greatest untapped resource are the people that are living the problems. They're not just vulnerable populations. we need to start viewing them as part of our solution ecosystem. I set up the UN Technology Innovation Labs and all around the world. I ran the UN Reboot Accelerator, which is how I met Mark and Walter and some of these amazing people here in Portugal. And I would just say to anyone watching, anyone who's here who has an idea, go for it. It's so important that we get used to failing and failing fast and then continuing on, because that's how we're going to achieve change. I'm a big believer in the seed grants, and I have enough faith in you that I want to invest in your idea and then mentoring you. Do you need a professor? Do you need to connect with a university? Do you need to connect with someone at the UN? You know, all of us who have lived for very long have lots of connections. And that's what I believe is part of the missing piece. I think that we need to look more granularly for the people on the ground who are actually living the problems. I worked with women all over the world, with young women, with mothers. Quite often, I think mothers are some of our greatest untapped resources. They know how to manage so many things, and yet often then their children grow up and leave. And then they're left sort of without a lot of purpose, right? Sometimes, in some cases. And I've worked with so many that they have so much energy and love and passion, and they understand the problems deeply. And to be honest, that's an era that we're moving into, because we're running out of food. We're facing one of the greatest climate emergencies, as you know, but also we're running out of food, and climate migration is headed our way rapidly. So who holds communities together? Who holds families together? It's the mothers in the homes. It's the women of the world. So I would just advocate, put your heart into whatever you do. Fail fast if it's not working. Pivot, partner, reach out and connect. And that's my passion. That's what I recommend for all of you to do.
Thank you, Dianne. Well, we have here people that can make you a unicorn, so I would ask if anyone has a question for them. Or maybe to Dianne with this fantastic, maybe, I don't know, Antonio, you also are CEO of a very important entity for the startups. Do you have any question for them? A mic, please.
Hello. Diana, seeing us from outside, what do you think are the main characteristics of Portuguese peoples, entrepreneurs, and community that can make a difference and that can be valued in the international community and market in this area?
I think this is the perfect spot, not only for innovation, but to teach the world that we deeply need to reconnect with love and feeling with the ocean. I think Portugal is now increasing their footprint because of the new mapping that we've done, which is that the minister referred to, which is amazing. But I think we also need to not look at it as a resource. We need to teach the world how to reconnect and feel, because the ocean has a resonance to it. The ocean has, anyone that's been in the ocean, you can feel it, right? It's something that we feel, that we've, as humans, have decided that we're not connected. Somehow we've decided that we're not even part of nature half the time, and that it's a resource we're just extracting from. We get to just extract. And that has to stop. But it's about love. We need to reconnect. We need to feel. It's a vibration. I'm getting my PhD in human resonance right now, so you can tell that this is my passion. You know, infants, when they're born into this world, they're an apprentice in their own bodies. They need to figure out what the world means and how to move in the world. We need to be apprentices in our own bodies again. We also need to know how to feel homesick for our planet, for our Mother Earth. There's a phenomenology of being homesick. It's a smell, it's a taste, it's a, what makes us homesick? Well, why can't we be homesick for a tree or for this beautiful blue ocean that we have out there? So it's that type of core of feeling that I think Portugal can teach us, because I feel it walking on your streets. I feel it in the eyes of the people. I feel safe here. And I am actually going to relocate here. So that's that's my surprise. I want to support the innovation economy here. I want to support the startups. I want to connect anyone who wants to connect with me to whoever I can connect them to. So I think that, yes, I have a very warm spot in my heart for the Portuguese people.
Great. I don't know if there is one more question. We will accept one or two more questions.
Hi, this one. Thank you so much. That was really enlightening. My one question is, as coming from a Portuguese entrepreneurship background, understanding what opportunities are available for entrepreneurs who are looking to access the ocean economy or the blue economy. Just want to know, what is the next step that someone can take?
Thank you so much. Opportunities in Portugal. Another question there. Here, please, second row.
Thank you. For the investors, how do you see the cellular agriculture space as a tool, solution in terms of sustainability and the ocean economics?
Okay, thank you. I will close the questions to the audience if there is anyone more. So, maybe starting by Stephan. What are the opportunities that you see in Portugal? We have entrepreneurs that want to come.
What are the next steps in sustainable agriculture, if I understood? First of all, I just wanted to, before we finish this, I just wanted to say thank you to Startup Portugal, because really thank you for bringing everybody together. And thank you for listening and to being so inclusive with everybody in the community. And I wanted to highlight what Dianne said about purpose. And this is why we believe so much in local action, because contrary sometimes to the normal tech sector, which is concentrated in Portugal in probably half a dozen cities, the ocean ecosystem is all over the country, for example. And we are a fund that focuses particularly in local investments, in taking from local to global. But we are very fortunate because people like you and many others have moved here. So currently we have in our portfolio lots of foreign founders that are from Lisbon nowadays, right? We are also very fortunate, and coming back to the question on Portugal, that there's lots of Portuguese abroad. So we have also invested in many Portuguese American unicorns, Portuguese British unicorns, and many other companies that are led by Portuguese that normally have the engineering here and have sales and marketing in the US and in other countries. So I think that when we say, and when people move here, and when there's many people moving here, which is great, they think they're moving into a small country, but it's a country that is all over the world, really. We are all over the world.
That's your DNA.
It's huge. It's our DNA. So I think that as for the next steps, I mean, we are, all our funds are very easy to reach out. I mean, for example, in our case, when it's an early stage opportunity, we have a partnership with Google for Startups. So we are the partners of Google in Portugal, and we have an acceleration program which is called the Indico Founders Program, that in this New Year edition we can invest up to 500,000 per company. Until recently it was 100. We're seeing one of our companies here, and Greg can tell you all about it. But it's very easy to reach out, and it's a small ecosystem in a way. So everybody knows each other, and it's very easy to access. And there's also in Portugal, and Startup Portugal can tell you all about it, there's also blended finance opportunities in terms of grants, in terms of debt whenever it's appropriate, and quite some options of venture capital and specialized venture capital. So I think that's in that case. As for sustainable agriculture, I can tell you that cellular agriculture, that is a little bit more specific. I'm not an expert, but I can tell you that we've seen a few things, and obviously with the need for protein substitutions and synthetic biology development, etc. That's obviously a field that the investors like us are looking, and I can tell you that overall in the last 3.5 years we looked at 2,500 opportunities, and specifically for the Bull Fund we're at 300. We've invested in 29 companies, about 35 million, and these companies have now raised 1.7 billion, and I hope we can replicate a little bit of that in the ocean sector, if not as big, at least something meaningful. And because of the reasons I said, I think that's an area that we'll have, and also because of what you said, because we're kind of running out of food in a way, and so we need to substitute protein. and to produce food in a different, more efficient way. And so, you know, happy to talk in detail.
Anyone would like to add something?
Yes, sure. I would like to complement what Stephan was just mentioning. So I think there are enormous opportunities in Portugal for the areas that are related to the emerging industries of the blue economy. So these are the areas that we also focus in, more particular in our fund. And this means the blue biotech sector that has many industrial applications. One of them is definitely the food and feed industries. So there's an enormous potential for development of this sector in Portugal. Portugal is already a reference at European level within the biotech sector, with the use of sustainably sourced marine biological resources, the microalgae, for the development of these new solutions that are much more sustainable, that can fit into the value chains of these different types of industries. The food and feed that I mentioned, but not only that, textiles, the materials, the packaging, the anti-fouling, many other industries that are in deep need for solutions that can really be game changers for what the industries are looking for. So I would mention the biotech space, where there's a lot of potential in Portugal for that. Also, other areas that relate to all the ocean intelligence technologies. So robotics, sensors, AI applied to this space. The objective and the purpose is to collect data that can be transformed into actionable and useful information to all these blue economy related industries. And I would say that Portugal has an outstanding capacity in these areas as well, because we have outstanding R&D centers and top-notch universities in these areas that can provide the tech support to the startups. So, and I would also mention a third area that I believe that, given the natural conditions that Portugal has, is naturally a sea of opportunity. So this relates to the clean energies sector. So we have outstanding conditions for the development of offshore wind, floating solar, energy, wave energy, because we have not only the conditions, but also regulatory frameworks that are really promoting the development of these projects. So these are just areas that I believe that Portugal has really outstanding conditions, and I would also like to say that, like Indico, we support. So we have a European investment mandate. We can support European companies, but of course, in this blue space, we are looking for teams that are growing and their companies here in Portugal and Spain. But we're also looking for these international teams that are looking to expand their operations here in Portugal to leverage the outstanding and extraordinary conditions the country can offer in terms of these conditions, in terms of the infrastructures that I mentioned, in terms of the talent that exists, so in terms of the universities and the R&D centers. So I do welcome you here. So I'm very glad that you're relocating to Portugal, and I look forward that welcoming you here in the innovation ecosystem and to work with you promoting the ecosystem. So
thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Rita. We are starting to run out of time, but I have one more question to every one of you, and links to the fantastic speech of our minister, António Costa Silva. And I know that when he says the word hope, it means a lot to him. So can you give us a synonym of hope to you in this startup movement in the blue economy? So maybe starting with Dianne, what does it mean, hope, to you in these days?
That's a tricky question, isn't
I know.
it? It's like a really tricky question. I think don't be afraid to fail. I think that's the one thing we focus on. We don't focus on it enough. We teach our children, we reward them for grades, we reward them for winning. But, and I don't know exactly what the trick is for that, but we need more of an acceptance of failure. Because
you hope that everyone,
I hope that everyone
better accepts failure. Thank you so
fail
much.
Forward.
Carlo, to you.
I think it'd be good to build on that in a sense that for me, you have to believe in yourself, because you cannot believe and hope in the future if you don't start believing in yourself first and what you can do.
And yeah, and for a startup, that is very, very important. Stephan.
Yes.
I think Michael said something very important, which is economic sustainability. Because if you're not sustainable financially, you can't do it. So when we're talking about ESG, and when we're looking for ESG-led products, we need to look for products which are also economically sustainable, because that's when you align interests, and that's when there's hope for growth and hope for a fair livelihood for everybody.
Thank you so much, Stephan. Rita, to conclude.
Well, I would also, I have two thoughts in my mind.
Be my guest.
If I'm allowed. So, one would definitely be alongside Stephan's thoughts, which is aim for high positive impacts of your technologies, of your activities, because that's what we're all looking for. That's what the market demands. That's what will bring you the economical returns that you want. That's what the talent that is working in your company also looks for. So aim high for these positive impacts, because it's the future of us all that is at stake. My second thought would be more in line with Carlo as well and Dianne, which would be ambitious. You have to think global from day one, from the company that you're building. If you're growing your startup in a small country like Portugal or even elsewhere, you have to aim high, be ambitious, build a global company, because that's the way to go.
Thank you so much, Rita. So I would ask everyone a warm applause to these fantastic speakers. And phase one is concluded, but we have phase two for talks and drink.